You know, when my dad was dying, my dad was terminally ill with cancer. In the last week of his life, he had to have a medical procedure done. And he was in ICU. And when they did the medical procedure, during the procedure, something happened to him. And in fact, the doctor told us he didn't know how Dad even stayed alive. He couldn't understand how Dad could live through what was going on. Apparently, Dad threw up lots and lots of blood during the procedure. And anyway, the doctor comes back out, gastroenterologist comes out into the waiting room and says, I don't know how your dad survived. He said, I'm pretty sure I lost him, but he's alive and sitting up. So we went in to talk with him, and then after the rest of the family left Dad's room, I remained. And he grabbed me by the arm and he said, I need to tell you something. And I thought, well, what is it, Dad? What's going on? And believe it or not, even after he'd just been through this procedure, he was very aware, very alert. And he said, while he was under in that procedure, this very deep voice came. And he said he looked straight ahead and there was a door and there was a light underneath the door. And Dad said that very deep voice told him, if you go under that door through that light, you can't come back and you have to choose. And Dad said it was the deepest voice he'd ever heard. And Dad said he chose not to go through that light. And I believe that that's the light so many people talk about when they're dying or near death. You hear so many people talk about they see a light in a tunnel and they follow the light. Now, Dad didn't see a light in a tunnel. He saw a light under a door, but he chose not to go. Now, ironically, a week from that day, that was like a Saturday, the very next Saturday, around 9 in the morning, Dad did pass away. But there was just something about that story when he told me, because I've heard so many people in near-death experiences talk about following the light. And I always wondered, is it really real? Because I'd never talked to someone personally who had been through that until my dad mentioned it. And again, it kind of threw me because he said it was a light under a door. And if you walked through that door and followed the light, you would not come back. And he told he had to choose. It's your choice. You have to choose. Do you want to go or do you want to stay? And of course, Dad said he wanted to stay. He didn't know what was on the other side of that door, and I don't think he was ready to find out. But he stayed. But you hear so many people talking about these near-death experiences, and they say that they do follow this light and that it's so beautiful on the other side they don't want to come back. So I don't know if a week later when Dad did pass, because the cancer did take over his body and he was in so much pain. Who knows? I know he fought. He didn't want to go. And in fact, it was Christmas time. And I actually held his hand, and I had lost my son a few years earlier, and my nephew was also killed a few years earlier. And I told him, I said, Dad, do you see the boys on the other side? And he nodded his head yes. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, why don't I hold your hand and I'll walk over with you? And that's when he shook his head. And I actually started singing Silent Night to Dad. And I tell you, the minute I got to sleep in heavenly peace, he went. He crossed to the other side. And I did tell him, Daddy, I can't go with you. It's not my time. But when it is my time, will you come back with the boys and take me with you? And the last thing he did do was nod to me that he would come back and he would take me with him and those two boys. Now, since then, I've lost my mother.